It's nearly midnight. Rush hour for the Australian Senate, which has one of the Turnbull government's most politically precious pieces of legislation in its jaws.
Onerous, and I think Senator Hinch has just come in the chamber and he can save the day.
The fate of the bill depends on an unruly flock of minor party and independent senators, all with their own opinions and degrees of experience.
You're watching the new boy, all right?
Amendments are flying like confetti. Deals are being made on the floor of the chamber. What will this law look like by the time dawn arrives? Even at this late hour, no one is entirely certain. Every morning, government tactician Christopher Pyne goes for a brisk constitutional with colleague and political sharehouse buddy Trent Zimmerman. Pyne is in a buoyant mood. He's stared down the Labor Party in the House of Representatives and got some crucial pieces of government legislation through. But those laws can't come into effect unless they're approved by the Senate. A mysterious and unpredictable chamber known to Mr. Pyne and his lower house colleagues as the other place.
The Senate can be a little bit,
Yes, what?
you know, well, I wouldn't call them precious on occasion, but they certainly can be sensitive about their schedule.
What does that mean?
Well,
Because people are often a bit sort of rude about the Senate. They're
No,
like,
never.
"Oh, the Senate."
We love the Senate, but-
So what's your issue with them, that they will take their eye off the ball at a crucial moment and
They
stop?
can. Sometimes you can discover that they're only discussing that day, you know, Aung San Suu Kyi's ascension in Burma, and will not deal with any legislation until the next day. And if you say to them, you know, could you just try, they get very sensitive about being asked to do anything in particular. So we load up the cannon with 6 of the important pieces of legislation about 3 sitting weeks ago to give them all the time they could possibly need.
Australian voters have a subversive sense of humour. We begin by electing one party in the House of Representatives to be the government.
Now those officers think the money just falls from the sky.
And then we elect a Senate that's infested with minor parties and independents. The government is currently 9 votes short of a majority in the Senate. So when it has a contentious bill, it has to coax extra votes from the crossbench, one by one. As you can imagine, the potential for snarl-ups in the Senate is high. Fortunately, they have a former cop up there directing traffic.
Good morning, Blackrock. We all set to go?
Senate President Stephen Parry was a Tasmanian police officer before he was elected to the upper house for the Liberal Party. He's very good at solemn processions, as he was also a funeral director.
You have a professional background that suits you well to threatening and interring people, right?
Well, police officer, funeral director, yes. You have discipline on one hand and you have pastoral care on the other, so both previous vocations.
And the ability to bury people.
Yes, well, that's now if they really don't behave. But
Sometimes you hear the members of the other place, the House of Representatives, saying, oh, the Senate, they're very special up there. They complain about how long it takes for you guys to sort of send the legislation back down.
we're fixing their mistakes. They send us up so many mistakes. That's what takes us so long. We have different roles. In the House of Representatives, they are clearly a majority house, so there's no surprises that legislation comes through because government is formed in the House of Representatives. The Senate has that understanding that you have to negotiate, you have to compromise, and that does happen in the examination of legislation. And you can tell by the intelligent questions that are asked in the Senate.
Yes, of course.
And we are more intelligent, I'm sure, as a chamber. Don't tell the House of Reps that.
Annabel, hello.
It's the busiest woman in the building.
Day-to-day operations of the Senate are run by Dr. Rosemary Lang, a 25-year legend of this building who's known for her prodigious brain.
Yes.
Dr. Lang has an Oxford University doctorate in 17th century English poetry. She's offered to show me the Senate sub-table office. because I'm secretly terrified of her, I've accepted.
So all of the business that gets fed into the Senate comes through this office. All of the committee reports to be tabled, all of the bills to be introduced.
So what is tabling something? When people say something is tabled?
You know, in there, in the red room, there is a large table. That is the table. And to lay something on the table is a very old parliamentary expression that effectively means to publish it.
Can you table a thing, or can you only table documents?
Yes, we have had things tabled, Jenny, haven't we?
Yeah, we've had a message stick tabled.
There was a famous attempt to table a dead bird.
Right.
Because there were some issues many years ago with insecticide on the parliamentary lawns.
I remember that, and the currawongs were dropping like flies.
This was quite a small bird, and there was an attempt to table it, but the advice was that a dead bird was not a document. Anyway, I believe the president of the day did have the bird subjected to autopsy, and the bird had not died of poisoning from insecticide. The bird had unfortunately flown into the glass and broken its neck.
The Senate's job is to review and sometimes amend legislation. Rosemary is often called in to help senators with their amendments.
So do you ever save them from disaster?
Often, but I could never talk about that.
And are you a bit like a priest? I mean, you can't get on the phone and say to, you know, George Brandis, look out, incoming, there's a really crazy thing coming your way.
Not.
No.
Absolutely not.
Right. Because
Being impartial and working confidentially is a core element of being able to do the role that you're here for.
You must have to have a real poker face for those moments.
Oh, well, I've been a clerk at the table for 25 years, and I think you do develop the ability to maintain a poker face for the most part. My problem comes with the dabbing.
You're a crier, aren't you?
And I will occasionally have to, you know, surreptitiously find a tissue and do a bit of a dab. You know, there are things, there are great moments in history. And the third reading of the Mabo Bill was one of those.
Order, the question is that the Native Title Bill 1993 be now read a third time.
I was the junior clerk at the table. That was amazing as a historical moment.
Result of the division there being 34 ayes and 30 noes, the question is resolved in the affirmative.
When the President read out the result of the division, the place erupted. And you can't fail to be moved.
No, I'm tearing up. This is
by the value of a system that can deliver results.
Right now, the biggest bit of legislation in the Senate mounting yard is the bill to reinstate the Australian Building and Construction Commission. Something the government's been dying to do for 3 years now. The Australian Building and Construction Commission has assumed a quasi-religious significance in Australian politics. It's essentially a union-busting authority which Conservative governments love to install and Labor governments love to dismantle.
The thuggery must stop, and the Parliament should pass the bill to reinstate...
High-risk double dissolution election strategy with the ABCC bill as the trigger.
Prime Minister is still working desperately to try and negotiate a deal with Nick Xenophon in a last-ditch bid to push his signature policy, the Australian Building and Construction Commission, through the Senate.
The ABCC bill has passed the lower house. But the Senate is never predictable, and straight away a roadblock appears. Some of the key senators the government needs to get on side have declared they won't even consider the legislation until the government gives them other stuff.
Still talking to the government.
Nick Xenophon, who controls 3 votes, wants more water for South Australia.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you stalking again?
Little bit. So I just wanted to check on the ABCC legislation. How close are you to cutting some sort of deal, or have you got still a way to go?
There's still a way to go. If the government is going to renege on their water deal, it'll have all sorts of implications for the Murray-Darling Basin Plan that so many people fought for so long, that I need to make sure that the government is keeping their word on that, because if they're going to break their word on something so important, how do I know they won't break their word on another piece of legislation such as this one?
Libertarian and pro-gun Senator David Leyonhjelm wants the government to lift import restrictions on a particular make of lever-action shotgun.
Politics is the art of the possible, sort of, you know, and at the end of the day, the government needs numbers. If it wants to get its numbers, there are certain hoops it needs to jump through. The way we make laws, it's been said that it's a bit like watching sausages being made. It's probably best if you don't look too closely.
This is the reality of life for the government. If it really, really wants something, it often has to do some quite random horse trading in the Senate. Journalist Phil Curry has been watching Senate shenanigans for years.
So you're enjoying this ABCC teetering in the balance? Nick Xenophon just introduces water into the situation?
Yeah,
Been here before?
Yeah, lock up your daughters. It's ABCC time, yes. It's fascinating. It's just going to be a turgid few days trying to find out if the government's going to get this stuff up or not. One thing you know is we're sitting here this week, all the chip machines are empty. It's the great indicator of how...
Oh, really?
Yes. It's the great indicator of how busy the Parliament gets.
So what's your tip for the ABCC? Through by the end of the week, you reckon?
Yeah, I think I'll get up, yeah.
And how are they going to get around the water issue?
Oh, they'll come up with some compromise none of us can actually explain or understand.
Phil Curry's office is up on the second floor of the Senate wing, along the raucous corridor known as the Federal Parliamentary Press Gallery. Media organisations are paying tenants of the Parliament. It's an unusual arrangement. Not many comparable democracies have the press living in like this. And it's not always happy families. There are strict rules governing where and how media can operate in Parliament. Break them, and you can be expelled from the building.
Hello.
Photographer Andrew Mears is the president of the Press Gallery.
Yeah, I thought I was well within the rules.
He's at war with the Senate over its long-standing photography rules.
And they redefined the rules and said the call only takes effect when the senator stands on their feet and speaks.
In the House of Reps, you can photograph any MP at any time.
Right, so here's the famous picture of the moment pre-challenge.
But in the Senate, you can only photograph a senator who's on their feet and speaking. It's a big deal because in the chambers, all sorts of stuff happens off mic.
Then one particular day we noticed Malcolm Turnbull leap off the front bench and hunt down Tony Abbott. Little did we know 2 hours later the Prime Minister was being rolled.
That was Malcolm Turnbull saying, I'm going to come and see you in the office.
Yeah. Now in the Senate you could only photograph them speaking. You can't photograph any of the interaction between each other.
Mike Bowers has been fighting the rule for decades. He's devised a crafty and highly unauthorised way of depicting the Senate.
You just learn so much from their expressions, don't you?
Yeah.
When you photograph them like this.
It's fantastic.
Without restrictions.
That's right. I was trying to work out ways where I might piss them off the most, I think, and I thought if I can take the mickey out of them with little Lego figures, it might do the job. I just naively thought I'd be able to raid my children's Lego, but of course I ended up buying hundreds of dollars worth of
I bet you did. You can't stop at just one.
No.
So who have we got populating this Lego Senate?
Well, this is Corey Bernardi, who's a ninja warrior.
God, he's ready for battle.
Yeah,
Who's this teeny tiny person?
Well, that's Sam Dastiari. I was a little bit cruel there. But...
That's really unkind.
I had to make this. This is Pauline. This is a new figure in it.
Oh, I see, yes.
So there are very limited amounts of hair colours you can get, so I've got a good collection of nail polishes to change the hair colour.
Changing the Senate photography rule would take a vote of the Senate itself. The trick is finding the senator foolhardy enough to initiate the vote. Bingo. New Senator Darren Hinch, a former journalist, is sympathetic to Andrew Mears's arguments. With his staff, he's drafting a surprise motion for the Senate.
We're meant to be a House of Review, which means we're there to be reviewed as well. And you should be able to see us and see how it goes. And that's it.
What are they hiding?
All we want in the Senate is exactly the press freedoms that you've got in the lower house, or the other place, as they call it.
All right, is everybody here?
The Hinch photography campaign finds an instant ally in Nick Xenophon and his team.
And Senator Hinch has got a handwritten notion saying that photographers having the right to film us if we happen to be picking our noses. I support this motion. I mean, I think if we're in the chamber, we're being paid for by taxpayers. That's it.
You know, the Labor Party says this is union busting. Well, we have always said that this is pro-union.
The government is desperate for a win on the ABCC. It's prepared to persist in the face of elaborate crossbench demands.
We'll go to a vote. How confident are you that it'll pass?
I will continue to liaise with the crossbench.
This is special Senate business.
Stalking the corridors, trying to catch this lady.
Minister for Employment, Michaelia Cash, is the woman in charge of wrangling demands from the crossbench.
So you're having Senate nightmares yet about juggling crossbenchers?
Look, I never have Senate nightmares. I've been really delighted with the way the Senate crossbench has approached the negotiations in relation to both bills with me.
Is it a bit of a discipline to never just say, well, that's ridiculous, you can't have that?
Nothing's ever ridiculous. Right. Nothing's ever ridiculous. We're working well with them, and I will continue to work well with them.
Nick Xenophon's in-tray is at capacity. As predicted by Phil Curry, he has indeed reached a baffling compromise on water allocation.
Do you want some pomegranate juice?
And now he's working on a complicated series of amendments to the ABCC bill.
You're still talking to Michaelia Cash about the ABCC, or is
Yes.
it all moved to the Prime Minister's
No,
office?
you know, Michaelia Cash is involved, the Treasurer is involved to do with procurement issues.
Right.
The Finance Minister is involved and the Prime Minister is involved. But apart from that, no one's involved.
Thank you for the pomegranate juice. Too early to toast success, possibly.
This is no cocktail party. This is no cocktail party. More horror show than cocktail party. All right.
Meanwhile, Hinch has successfully overturned the decades-old Senate photography rule.
It's fantastic.
It's not known whether this buys him protection from nose-picking shots. David Leyonhjelm has given up on shotguns. He's now struck a new deal. He'll cooperate if the government forces the ABC and SBS to hold board meetings in the bush.
This is a big crowd. I'm happy to announce I've come to an agreement with the government over the passage of the ABCC bill.
It's a reminder that the democratic sausage-making process sometimes employs some very exotic ingredients. These deals mean that the way is now clear for the government to proceed with the ABCC debate. But all the haggling and delays mean the Senate will have to sit late into the night. This is a common occurrence.
How was your night last night? How did you go with the shampoo in the lifts and all that?
Yeah, good shampoo in the
good.
For head cleaner Maria Lubick and her team, it's also a long night ahead. Parliament's cleaners work around the clock.
You do this first and then...
Maria is a legendary figure who's worked in the building since the day it opened.
This couple of stones here?
She was briefly mistaken for the Queen as she zipped out to hoover the red carpet right before the opening ceremony in 1988.
So I come in out with a backpack. Everyone's clapping and cheering and... This cleaner come out with a vacuum. From day one, it's just a, as I say, beautiful memories for me.
The senators have been going for hours, grinding through the Australian Building and Construction Commission bill, one clause at a time. Amendment after amendment is being fought out on the floor. But the result is still uncertain. Senate attendant John Brown, as ever, is an eyewitness to political history.
2 more coming. 2 more coming. Right, what I've done.
To move documents quickly, the Senate attendants still use the Lamson tube, a 2-kilometre network of Willy Wonka-style pneumatic piping that snakes around Parliament House. This particular bit of it shoots out at the Senate table office, where amendments are collected. Tragically, the Lamson tube is out of favour with just about everyone outside the Senate and is shortly to be decommissioned.
Tonight, there's a degree of urgency. Everybody wants the amendment straight away. They're so eager to get it, but you can only do it so fast.
So does that one. Is a revised amendment sheet? Is that the last one? It's a straggler. Yeah. Thank you. That's all I want to know. I've got a straggler of an amendment.
So why this reign of late amendments? Is it just people...
It's just the way they do business.
Welcome to the Senate.
Yeah.
As the night wears on, there's a lot of waiting around for those senators not directly engaged in the negotiations. I'm dropping in on the famously hospitable Queensland government frontbencher, James McGrath.
The Force is with you, but you are not a Jedi yet.
You're playing with Darth?
This is a totally new feature of your office. What's going on?
This is Darth because this is a symbolism that is always good in people. So Darth was on the dark side, and at the end he came across to the light. So that's why Darth Vader's here, and also because I'm basically a kid and I love Star Wars.
I know. Do your constituents find this reassuring?
Don't make me destroy you.
Wow, Darth Vader, Margaret Thatcher.
A Bundaberg rum clock.
I know. Oh God.
Come on through.
Yeah, I'd love to. You poor bugger. I love your dinner. What is this? Macadamia nuts and a milkshake.
So what you need to do is you can have a go at stress release Senate style.
Okay.
Is smash. Well, probably we don't want to break the table because we'll have an incident here. I'll end up an estimate. So
I don't think that's ever happened before.
No.
These tables are really durable. Yeah. Unless you get a really drunk guy standing on them.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, neither do I.
So I will sit here when I'm a little bit stressed and cranky and whatever, and I'll smash a few macadamias. I'll watch what's happening on the TV.
Then you just really hope that all of those conversations that Nick Xenophon and Darren Hinch and co are having with all of your ministers is going to pay off, and suddenly at the end, bloop, you'll get an ABCC.
Short answer, yes.
Yeah.
Trying to get people who have very strong opinions to be in the same room at the same time, to deal on the exact same issue at the same time, is like herding cats. You've just got to do it, because the alternative is to do nothing.
Do you have agreements born of fatigue?
I don't think so, but everybody gets tired in politics because you do work long hours, you're away from your family, you're away from your friends, you have this weird life where you sit here and smash macadamias like some demented monkey while looking at the TV. I mean, that's not normal.
With all these amendments flying around, keeping track of them is a real challenge. Happily, document management is one of Rosemary Lang's superpowers.
There's a division on opposition amendments, which are about using local labour in building jobs.
Doomed to fail by the looks of things?
Yes, I think doomed to fail. We might just turn up the sound for the division results, if you don't mind.
No, of course.
Being 35 ayes and 28 noes, the matter is resolved in the affirmative.
OK, so they were agreed to, which is interesting.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, they seem to be crashing through into the next amendment.
Yes, I think that we will get this tonight.
Right, OK.
Well, you can never tell in the Senate.
No, quite.
You can never tell. Things can go pear-shaped at the drop of a hat. You know, someone criticises someone's tie and it's all off.
With all eyes on the Senate chamber, it's time for the cleaners to move into the deserted parts of the building. The floors of Parliament's famous marble foyer have a demanding beauty regime. They're mopped with distilled water every night. No detergent. The precious Belgian black granite is a favourite for visiting school children as it's full of ancient fossils. It's where you'll find the marble foyer's best-known fossilised celebrity, Sean the Prawn. Back in the press gallery, Phil Curry takes his chances with the chip machine.
Fine dining hour, is it? Oh my God, this is hideously denuded.
Waiting for the Senate, as we always do. The factor is that what I hear is Darren Hinch actually wants to go to bed. And so if they can keep him going at midnight, because he's now the he's now the bloke they're going to get over the line, basically. And if they get him over the line, we could get this thing settled. Everyone just wants to be seen to walk away with something.
So it's like a modern game of pass the parcel. You know how these days every kid gets a prize.
Everyone's going to be putting out press releases saying, look what I got.
Yeah.
And all that Malcolm Turnbull's going to be as happy as Larry because he's essentially got his anti-union bill through, and to him that's all that matters. And if he's had to lose a bit of skin on the way, then, you know, it's about as dreadful as eating a packet of these.
Poor I'll leave you to your shame.
Do you want one?
No, really not.
All good? Oh, they stink. Oh, Jesus. Smells like an old fish.
8023.
8023, yes.
Your name.
It's nearing midnight. Darren Hinch is still awake and hashing out final amendments.
I think Senator Hinch can save the day and refer to his legal expenses amendment.
Senator Hinch.
You're watching the new boy, all right?
Sheet 8023, Senator Hinch.
Which one was it?
8023.
8023, yes.
Your name.
Look, at this stage of the night, I'm trying to get as many amendments through as we possibly can. You know what it's about, and I'll just move it. Thank you.
The government will be supporting the amendment put forward. We accept that the proposal...
The legislative process is now on its last lap.
Just checking to make sure that that was the last amendment. So we've got no more. She reckons that's it.
It's midnight. The government has agreed to dozens of amendments from all sides on issues from legal burdens of proof to local jobs to protections for subcontractors. Nipped, tucked and restyled by the crossbench, the Australian Building and Construction Commission will now come back into being. A substantial ideological win for the government.
Pursuant to order, the Senate stands adjourned and will meet again today, in fact, at 9:30am.
So can you go home now, or you've got a bit of packing
No,
up to
we've got a
do?
bit of packing up to do, because there's a lot of paper out there.
Exactly.
It's taken 24 hours of Senate debate to secure the ABCC and its related bills. It feels like a long slog, but it's nothing compared with the native title debate of 1997, which holds the record at 105 hours and 56 minutes. Nick Xenophon is exhausted, and he has to be back at work before sunrise.
We've got a draft overnight, some terms of reference for a joint select committee the government's agreed to actually advance it further, so it's a big deal.
It's a pretty busy night in the Senate, all up, right?
No, it's just another day at the office. Can I? I've got to work in a coffee shop now. I've got to work in a coffee. I've got to do my night shift. I'm going to go to the pancake kitchen.
I think we could probably get off your case now, all right?
Can I get some sleep now?
Yeah, sure. Off your pop.
I'm delirious. It's a good thing I'm sober. See ya.
Bye.
Next on the House, visitors come calling.
It's democracy in action as I run out the door.
Politics gets personal.
It sort of affected me so much that I actually went and found my birth mother from it.
And the mood gets confessional.
I think quite a few bottles of wine were consumed.
I feel like I'm walking towards an appointment with fate.
Do we want to do a dry run?
Come and discover the secrets of the House.
3,